Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to have a really fun one. I'm going to rank all 17 Weatherby cartridges from worst to best. Now, if you've been around on the channel for a while, you know several years ago I made this video right after the 338 Weatherby RPM was introduced. However, Weatherby now has a new cartridge, and a couple weeks ago someone asked me to do an updated ranking with the 25 Weatherby RPM included. And honestly, I've gotten more time with each of these cartridges, and so the rankings are going to be a little different than last time. Well, let's get to it. So how I'm going to rank these is, a lot of it is going to be relevancy. So can you get a rifle? Can you get ammo? And just how popular the cartridge is. And also the performance compared to its, rivals. So starting in at number 17, I kind of have to put it here. It's going to be the 375 Weatherby Magnum. Now, the 375 Weatherby, it's been a pretty dead cartridge for quite some time now. Weatherby does not offer any rifles in it. Now, they still do provide ammo for it because there's a small number of 375 Weatherby shooters out there. So they'll always provide ammo, but currently they have no rifles you can get. Now, the 375 Weatherby, it's really just a 300 Weatherby necked up to 375. It's a bit more powerful than a 375 H&H. Honestly, it's kind of an underrated cartridge, but since Weatherby doesn't make rifles for it, and then that they have the 378 Weatherby, I kind of have to put it at number 17. Coming in at number 16, this one is definitely going to be a hot take and upset a few people. I'm sorry, but I got to do it. Number 16 is the 240 Weatherby Magnum. I understand there's a lot of fans for the 240 Weatherby, and it is one of the speed demons in 6mm. It's not quite the fastest 6mm semi-spec cartridge, but it's really close. Quite a bit faster, probably about 200 feet per second faster than a 243 Winchester. And in the last few years, Weatherby has updated all of their rifles with a 1-in-8 twist for the 240 Weatherby. So if you're into the higher BC craze, you can now shoot them in your new 240 Weatherby. So for a lot of people, they absolutely love it. So why on earth did I put it 16th? Sorry guys, I'm a 6mm hater. I just don't really care for them. Now maybe if I had some time with a 240 Weatherby, maybe I'd change my mind. But I put this 16th because it's basically the same size case as a 30-06. Think of it as a belted 30-06 next down to 6mm. And I just think it should be faster than it is. As I said, it's only 200 feet per second faster than a 243 Winchester. Coming in at number 15, this is also going to upset quite a few people. I have the 7mm Weatherby Magnum. Now, why is this one so far down? Why is it 15th? Well, Weatherby hasn't updated it. It's not particularly that popular. And honestly, the 7 Rem Mag is gonna, well, they're really the same case. Technically, the 7 Weatherby is a little bit more case capacity, but the difference is a lot, if not almost 50% or more of the rifles you can get today in 7 Rem Mag, they all have a fast twist now and a longer magazine. And Weatherby hasn't updated the 7 Weatherby. It's still actually a 1-in-10 twist, not even a 1-in-9.5 or 1-in-9. So really slow twist. It's kind of stuck in, in the 50s and the 60s. And it is really good performance. If you have one, you don't really need anything else, but I'm putting it really low just because Weatherby hasn't updated it and it just isn't that popular. Coming in at number 14, I have the 338 Weatherby RPM. Weatherby introduced this just a few years ago, and honestly, it's a darn good performing cartridge for the case it's in. It's almost matching a 338 Win Mag, and in fact, in factory ammo, it absolutely matches 338 Win Mag. It's a really cool design, and honestly, you're looking just for an Alaskan cartridge. 338 Weatherby RPM is all you need. The reason it's so low on the list is I don't think it's popular. It's just so niche. I understand Weatherby as a company is niche, but this is really niche cartridge. It's really best suited in a really lightweight cartridge that's really meant for the backcountry. I just don't think there's a huge audience for it. Those that have the 338 Weatherby RPM, I'm sure they absolutely love it. It's a handy little cartridge that's hits well above its weight, but due to its popularity and its real being niche, I'm putting it at number 14. All right, coming in at number 13, I've pulled out the good old Hornady reloading manual, and we're going to 460 Weatherby Magnum. The 460 Weatherby is a really cool cartridge. You know, when it was introduced, it was considered the most powerful cartridge that you could get in a bolt action rifle. Its performance is very good. The question is, can you handle the recoil? Can you hit what you're aiming at with a 460 Weatherby Magnum? And let's just look at the performance real quick. You know, 350 grain at 3,000 feet per second. Good gravy. Now, speaking of energy, the energy that you're going to see in this, you know, nearly 8,000 foot-pounds of energy. You know, a 500 grain bullet, close to 2,600 feet per second. Just to give you an idea of, you know, similar cartridges in the 450 caliber, 458 caliber, like a 458 lot is going to be 300 feet per second slower. The 460 Weatherby is an absolute powerhouse. I don't think a ton of people have it. I hear the recoil is quite ferocious. You know, it'll kill anything on this planet. Coming in at number 12, I have the 416 Weatherby Magnum. Now, Roy's son, Ed Weatherby, introduced the 416 Weatherby Magnum, and really it was to put something in between a 378 Weatherby and a 460 Weatherby, because a lot of the African countries, you know, it's not legal to have a 375 cartridge, despite the 378 Weatherby being an absolute powerhouse. So what they did was just necked it up to 416, and it is one of the most powerful 416 cartridges you can get. I think the only thing that's going to be more powerful than a 416 Weatherby is probably a 416 Barrett. And the performance is very staggering. You're getting 2,700 feet per second out of a 400 grain bullet. Again, to put things in perspective, okay, just how powerful the 416 Weatherby is. Years ago, I shot a 416 Remington Magnum, kicked like an absolute mule. Really good, you know, dangerous game cartridge. So what kind of performance are you getting out of 416? 2450. So yeah, the 416 Weatherby is 250 feet per second faster than a 416 Remington Magnum. So coming in at number 11, this cartridge, last time I made a similar video, was really, really low on the list. At the time, Weatherby had 0 rifles in it. Yeah, they gave you ammo, you know, still offered ammo, but it just wasn't very popular. But I believe it was last year, Weatherby brought it back. Tons of people love it. You know, I've been told that the hottest selling Weatherby Deluxe is in this cartridge. It's the 224 Weatherby. Now, the 224 Weatherby is not even the fastest 22 caliber. That goes to the 22 Creedmoor. The 224 Weatherby is roughly about as powerful as a 22 250 Remington. Now, Weatherby brought it back in the Varmint Master Deluxe. Absolute beautiful gun. I got to handle one a couple months ago. It's just gorgeous. It does come with a fast twist. So, you know, it's going to have really light recoil. They're going to be very accurate because it's 224. It's a cool little cartridge. It's still not really my flavor, but I understand a lot of people are liking it. So I'm putting it at number 11. All right, we are now into the top 10. And coming in at number 10 is the 378 Weatherby Magnum. 378 Weatherby, it's got a reputation for kicking the snot out of you. A lot of people say the 378 Weatherby is the worst recoil out of all of the Weatherby cartridges. Everyone knows and loves, well, not that one, the 375 H&H. Okay, really good performance. It's really the parent case to a lot of the Weatherby cartridges. You know, we're looking at a 270 grain at 2700. We flip over to the 378 Weatherby, a 270 grain at, holy crap, 3100 feet per second. And then a 300 grain at 2900. Coming in at number 9, this one is going to be changed from last time. I think this cartridge was in my top 5 last time. Number 9, I have the 6.5 300 Weatherby Magnum. This cartridge was introduced in 2016. It is definitely of the old school thought of pushing a bullet as fast as possible. In fact, it is the fastest 6.5 cartridge you can get, SAMI spec at least. Insane performance, but if we're being honest, it really needs like a 30-inch barrel. You know, make that performance worth it. Even in a 26-inch barrel, you just need a longer barrel, honestly. You're pushing a 140 grain bullet if you're hand loading mid 3,400 feet per second. It's just insane performance. You know, it's 400 feet per second faster than a 6.5 PRC. Barrel life is extremely short. You know, all Weatherby cartridges, relatively, the barrel life's not going to be long. But this one is probably the king of burning your barrel. I think why I bumped it down to 9, you know, it's not going to be the most inherently accurate cartridge with it being that overbore, going that fast. I'm not saying you can't get sub-MOA. You definitely can. A lot of people do. But it's not going to be able to match the accuracy of like a 6.5 Creedmoor, not even close, or let alone maybe even a 6.5 PRC. Coming in at number 8, it is technically the fastest factory offered SAMI spec 338 cartridge. This is the 338 Weatherby. It is that 378 case neck down to 338, and it handily beats the 338 Lapua. There's going to be kind of a theme here. To get the most out of the 378 Weatherby, I do think you need it in a 28 or 30-inch barrel. Now, Hornady says this is 28. I'm guessing 28 with the muzzle brake. The muzzle brake doesn't really give you any extra velocity, obviously. Here's kind of the performance with a 26-inch gun. 3,200 feet per second with a 225. You know, over 3,000 feet per second with a 250 grain. You know, if we put this in a 28 or 30-inch gun, now you're looking at like a 250 grain at 3,100 to maybe 3,200 feet per second and a 225 at 3,300. Holy crap, I forgot to film my number 7, and it's a really important one. So here I am later in my truck filming. Number 7 is, I think, a really underrated cartridge, and honestly, the only thing holding it back is the traditional twist rate. If we put a really fast twist in this, holy cow, would it be amazing. So number 7 is 270 Weatherby. The 270 Weatherby is 250 feet per second faster than a 270 Winchester. It's quite a bit faster than a 6.8 Western. All it needs is that fast twist. And you're pushing the 155 LRX at 3,200 feet per second. You know, just awesome performance. You know, Tim from Little Crow Gunworks is really trying to convince me to rebarrel my 300 Weatherby into a fast twist 270 Weatherby, and it's really tempting, honestly. Coming in at number 6, I have a cartridge that was a bit lower last time, but I've had personal experience with it, and just looking into the nitty-gritty details of this cartridge, I've really come to appreciate it. It's the 6.5 Weatherby RPM. I'm not really much of a 6.5 fan, and if I were to ever get a 6.5 millimeter, it would definitely be a 6.5 Weatherby RPM. It is the most performance you can get out of a cartridge in a 473 bolt face in a standard length action. The performance is really good. Now, in factory ammo, it's kind of right there with the 6.5 PRC, which is like, eh. However, if you hand load it, it has quite a bit more case capacity than a 6.5 PRC, and you can easily get 100 feet per second faster than a 6.5 PRC. You know, I was able to test one a couple years ago. We were getting sub half MOA groups. We were getting a 140 grain bullet going 3,200 feet per second. It's a really cool cartridge. So if you're really into 6.5s, and you just want a really well-designed 6.5 millimeter that's fast, get a 6.5 Weatherby RPM. Now we're into my top 5. And coming in at number 5 is the 340 Weatherby Magnum. Now, for a lot of people, this is going to be nowhere close to your top 5. It's kind of an underrated cartridge, not that popular. There are a fair number of folks that do like the 340 Weatherby. Yeah, I'll admit, it's not that popular. Why is it not popular? Well, it's got a lot of recoil. When you compare this to a 338 Win Mag, this is at least 200, maybe 300 feet per second faster than a 338 Win Mag, depending on the 338 Win Mag's barrel length. It's an absolute powerhouse, the 340 Weatherby. Now, some of the performance I've gotten out of my 340 Weatherby, you know, this one's loaded with a 230 grain ELDX that I'm playing with. I was able to get almost 3,100 feet per second with a 230 grain. I've gotten the 225 grain AccuBond to 3,110 feet per second. And currently my hunting load, I know you guys are laughing at me. When are you ever going to take that deluxe hunting? If I do, I'm going to be shooting the 250 grain AccuBond that averages around 2,950 feet per second. That's 4,800 foot-pounds of energy. Coming in at number 4, I have the 25 Weatherby RPM. I promise, guys, this video is not sponsored by Weatherby whatsoever. And I didn't put the 25 Weatherby RPM in my top 5 just because I'm trying to help Weatherby out here. In fact, they don't really need any help right now. The 25 Weatherby RPM is selling like hotcakes, and for good reason. Now, the 25 Weatherby RPM is really a 6.5 Weatherby RPM shortened a little bit and neck down to 25 caliber. So all of the great designs of a 6.5 Weatherby RPM, they've just improved on it. You know, they kind of Creedmored the case so that you can seat these bullets out really long. You can't do that in a 6.5 Weatherby RPM. And it is the fastest 25 caliber cartridge that you can get in a fast twist. I understand the 257 Weatherby exists, and we'll talk about that, don't worry. Here's why I just think this is such a good cartridge. You put this in a 26-inch barrel, and honestly, it kind of makes the 257 Weatherby obsolete if you put a 25 Weatherby RPM in a 26-inch barrel. So it's probably, in my opinion, the most inherently accurate Weatherby cartridge that they have ever made. It's a very good cartridge. And looking at the nitty-gritty of things, anyone that owns one gets it. They do. This is obviously not a do-all cartridge. This is really specific for whitetail, mule deer, pronghorn. Coming in at number 3 is one of my favorites, the 30-378 Weatherby. It is the fastest factory produced cartridge in 30 caliber. Not only is it the fastest, but man, I've found you can get really good accuracy in a 30-378 Weatherby, which really surprised me. Holy cow. I was able to play with an AccuMark a month or two ago, and we were getting sub-half MOA consistent in a 30-378
Holy crap.
Weatherby. We are pushing a 200 grain bullet at 3250 and getting 0.3, 0.4 inch groups. Just insane performance from the 30-378 Weatherby. Now, like the 6.5 300, this needs a 30 inch or a 32 inch barrel to get the most performance. You know, you're burning 110 plus grains of powder. Man, I'd really like to see 150 to 200 more feet per second, putting it in like a 32 inch barrel. So if you did that, you could push a 200 grain bullet easily to 3,400 feet per second. Coming in at number 2, and it took second the last time I did this video, the 257 Weatherby Magnum. It's Roy's favorite, it's Roy's baby, and anyone that owns one knows why it's so good. Moderate recoil, shooting tiny bullets at ridiculous velocities with good accuracy. What's not to love? I guess the barrel life, but the 257 Weatherby is just such a fun cartridge to shoot. As I said, it's accurate, it's extremely fast. You know, it's going to be a bit faster than a 25 Weatherby RPM. It's quite a bit faster than a 25-06. Smokes the 25 Creed. And really what would push the 257 Weatherby just even further up for me is Weatherby needs to put in a fast twist. So you can shoot a 117 LRX or a 112 CX or even a 128 ELDX. It needs the fast twist. Then it would smoke a 25 Weatherby RPM. I don't know if they'll do it, but I hope they do. The 257 Weatherby is one of my favorites. Coming in at number 1, it's no surprise, 300 Weatherby Magnum. It's Weatherby's most popular cartridge, and for a good reason. It's extremely versatile. You know, you can shoot really light bullets, really heavy bullets. I have found the 300 Weatherby to be quite accurate, especially for how big this case is. In my personal 300 Weatherby, it's not uncommon to get half MOA or smaller. It's definitely a pretty darn accurate cartridge. And, you know, you're pushing really good velocities out of a 300 Weatherby. The other day, I was shooting a 200 grain terminal ascent in the field. I was shooting it at almost 3,100 feet per second. It was around 3,085 to 3,090 feet per second, which gives you 4,200 foot-pounds of energy and just ridiculously flat trajectory. It's just a great all-around cartridge.